All right, fantastic. We will give it just a couple minutes, give people an opportunity to sign on. All right, fantastic. We will give it just a couple minutes. Man, it's been a struggle being at work. That's for sure. It's as nice as it's been. It's been rough. Been real rough. Those of you coming in, we appreciate it. We're going to get started here in just a couple minutes. If you can go ahead and do me a favor, like, share, invite somebody on. Definitely going to be a good show tonight. Going to want to try to be engaged as possible. Definitely appreciate your time. Favor, like, share, invite somebody. Okay. All right, we will go ahead and get started. Appreciate everybody coming in. Again, as you continue to come in, please like, share, invite somebody in to join the conversation. Going to have a good episode tonight. We have with us founder of Vibe, Ty Malone, as well as Miss Penelope Hamilton, excuse me, the executive director of Western New York NORML and director of community engagements for the cannabis community here in Western New York. And so going to get into some different things and really looking forward to the conversation tonight. Want to encourage you, those of you that are just kind of tuning into the podcast for the first time, you can always catch us on Facebook. We keep the lives up so you can go through and catch up with them in case you miss them when they happen. But you can also catch us on multiple listening platforms. You can go to www.drgaryharveyjr.com and you can pretty much find us on any listening platform on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, Google, Anchor. I mean, you name it, you can find us. We're just you can just search one of those platforms. We'll be on there. But we definitely appreciate your guys' support. And as we are coming off of Juneteenth, I want to encourage everyone to not treat it like it was just a day and then move on with life. If you are truly trying to make a difference, it's something that's got to be a continued effort. And it was fantastic. We made it a federal holiday, like we said before, but at the same time, there's still a whole lot of work to do. Earlier, I don't know if anyone saw the news, but a voters' right bill essentially was blocked. So definitely be engaged with your legislators and get on the phone with them, send them the emails, let them know you want them to step up to the plate and actually do what they were elected to do. And we got a long road ahead. I've said it before and I'll continue to say it. It's not a trip to the corner store. If we really want to make this thing happen, it's a road trip. And we going all the way. Just because we stop for some snacks don't mean it's time to get out the car. So we're gonna keep rolling with that. But we're gonna hop into tonight's episode. As always, mirrors have three purposes: to show you who you were, show you who you are, and help you become who you want to be. So we're going to take a look at the reflection, face the man in the mirror tonight, and see if we can't become better than what it is that we started. And with that being said, Miss Penelope, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Definitely glad to have you here. Ty, thank you for joining us as well. And as we go through, just handful of questions, and then I'm sure we'll get some engagement as well. But if you don't mind, Ms. Hamilton, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, what it is that you do, and we can kind of go from there.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me on. Well, I became a patient, and that is what started my journey with cannabis and advocacy. And I've always been that type of person who's been passionate. When I am passionate about a cause, I get involved since a child, to be perfectly honest. So that's always been a part of me. But as a patient, I found out that cannabis could change lives so dramatically that I got involved and started speaking and advocating for the plant and legalization. I think it was around 2016, I was able to get off over 16 years of prescribed opiates and benzodiazepines eventually. I've never had to take them again. And I was in a wheelchair and using a walker at different points and pretty much bedridden. And this plant really saved my life. And then when I found out that certain people were still being persecuted, arrested for the same medicine that I could use and obtain, and then I found out I couldn't even afford to obtain it, I was forced into, a legacy market, a gray area, and that this plant that was healing me, my medicine was actually illegal in the forms that I needed, or not even affordable. That's it. So, that really started me on my journey and have been fighting for it ever since. So.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, that's, I don't know. I guess that was a little more intense as far as the reason to get behind it. A lot of people, when they get behind something, they believe in it. They, see how it helps people. But the fact that you have that firsthand experience on multiple levels, not just the medical aspect of it, but the difficulty in trying to get to it, and that type of thing. That's definitely says a lot, and can see that it's more than just a check in the box for you. So that's outstanding. Ty, before we keep going, you want to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about Vibe, and then we will continue to move forward.
Sure. I'm Ty Malone. I'm founder of Vibe, Voices in Black Empowerment. We're a nonprofit organization, a 501c4, to empower the Black community and minorities in our communities. And we do that through education, advocacy, community outreach. We are trying to get involved in the marijuana legislation as far as New York goes, as much as possible. We believe that not only could it change the lives of a lot of minorities, but it can also change our area, our community. As we're about to lose 500 jobs from Siemens when they close down. I believe that the marijuana industry could take care of those jobs, replace them without a second thought. We've ran some numbers on different things out here. It's kind of hard because of not knowing the pricing and stuff, but there's programs that I'm going to try to implement. And that's why I would like to try to get everybody as well educated on it as possible. We're going to be talking to the city shortly here about making sure that they opt in. It's very important that we choose to opt into this, because if we don't, then our county will still make money, but Olean will not see any of that money. Your county cannot opt out, but your city can opt out if they choose not to. So it's very important that we educate not only the community, but our city council and mayor and everybody on everything. So I just think that the marijuana industry could change lives in so many different ways. And I just want to make sure that we don't miss out on it, and that everybody is as educated as they can be on it.
Most definitely. Well, thank you for joining us tonight as well. Definitely appreciate it. With that being said, Ms. Hamilton, what is NORML? What's the organization do?
Sure. NORML is the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. And so we're involved with consumer safety, and then also just reforming these laws and getting this plant decriminalized and seeing what we can do. So Empire State NORML is our state organization, and we have some small chapters across the state, and it's a national nonprofit organization as well.
Okay. And then the other organization that you chair is the engagements for our community engagements for the cannabis community.
So yeah, we're actually a full media company and a community that is built of consumers and began as patients. It started in Illinois and Chicago and has gone out into different states. And we have just community members that we support. We do advocacy. We're all involved. We're a small team that's really grown in the beginning. And I'm proud to work with some people that were very instrumental in getting the legalization and medical bills passed in Illinois. So I've had some great mentors.
Awesome. That's exciting to hear. So what are some of the common myths behind the legalization of marijuana? Because one thing I know as far as campaigning myself and pursuing the office of the mayor here locally is being as passionate about being able to help the community. But when you have individuals that have a tendency to be set in a mindset or are only educated on one spectrum of or one side of the fence as far as information goes, or even a more just in general a conservative area, like, you know, you can look back over years and look back and the campaigns that were against marijuana and all the things that they claimed it would do to you, you know, that if you know, it's such a gateway drug and this, that, and the other. But what are some common myths that are around the legalization of marijuana and that legislation?
Oh, wow. There's a lot out there. Um, Probably that everybody is just going to run out, and everybody's going to be using this new, opportunity. I think what we need to understand and put in perspective is marijuana, cannabis, whatever you know it as, it has been there. This is not something new, and we need to stop the fear mongering, to be perfectly honest. It's been there for thousands of years. It's been used by cultures, and it's in our neighborhoods as well. So this isn't something brand new. Safety wise, yes, some people may now feel comfortable enough to be able to try this. But I think a lot of people also believe that the legalization was just so that everybody could have access. Again, we've got access. You know what I mean? It's already there. It's already, we have a wonderful legacy market already built in New York State. That's, we have it untaxed right now and unregulated. And that's what legalization can bring to us is safety, consumer safety, that regularization, the tax revenue, so that we can reinvest. Oh, see, I'm already getting all excited on what legalization can do. Getting off topic. So, Ty, go ahead and add in there. I'm sure you've got a lot of myths that you've heard.
I think the biggest one is like she was saying, the access. A lot of people think like now kids could be able to get it, and it's actually regulated more so that kids can't do that. Your kid can go down the street and knock on the door and grab it, but he's not going to go to the store and get it. You know what I mean? So like, I think the driving thing, people think that it's going to cause so many accidents, and I would just say, look at alcohol. Alcohol is going to cause way more accidents than marijuana. I don't really find too many people that are getting stoned or whatever you like to call it and talking about like, I'm going to go drive across the country or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? I just don't. I think that people need to just like relax on it. Just use some common sense and just don't play into that fear. It's really, there's really no different. You have people smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, doing all kinds of things. There's really no difference. I believe that, a lot of people think that the money aspect of it, that people, they're going to be giving a certain amount of that tax revenue is supposed to be going to minorities. I think that people have a misconception of that. I think that that's why I think the education is the most important thing. If people can understand the legislation behind it, the different avenues that people are going to be able to do different things with this. People aren't even thinking about like infused restaurants and all kinds of different things. So it's the limitation on this is just, we can't even think about it because we don't know yet. We don't know what we can do. And I just think that people need to relax and, like I said, use some common sense.
Well, I think kind of to piggyback off of that, you mentioned, the kids and Ms. Hamilton mentioning, everybody having access and that seemed to be the thought process. I mean, in all honesty, growing up, if I chose to smoke or drink, as a high school student, it's not like it was complicated for me to get this, to get these items, by any stretch. Our kids have access in some of our communities, unfortunately, to much harder, much worse substances than marijuana. As far as that's concerned. And yet we tend to, in a lot of our communities, especially small communities like, Ty and myself are in, tend to focus on marijuana like it's this big green demon. And we got to chase it. We got to go after it. And we spend time, money, effort going after these things because it's a little easier to snatch somebody for one of those, in reference for marijuana use. And then it is to really go after the root cause of some of these other problems that are going on, in reference to substance abuse. I mean, we have legal substances that are abused on a level that, honestly, every day, you look at just basic nutrition, we abuse things that are legal and supposedly okay for us to have as a people that actually do a lot of harm physically to us. And, we have an opportunity here. And I guess rolling into the next question, some of the impact on things, such as like health and the overall economy, that has happened because of the current regulation of marijuana. I know several individuals that from a medical standpoint, they would be in a much better position, but simply because it's labeled illegal, they stay away from it. They won't approach it, or they have to take avenues where now I'm risking, essentially a criminal record because I'm trying to take care of my health, type of thing with the way that it's currently set up. So what are your guys' thoughts on that, as far as how the current regulation has affected overall health and even the economy?
Was past legislation, right? Not
well,
current.
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Prior to the way it has previously been regulated and legislated.
Oh, sure. People were afraid to use that. It was a last resort only. That's what happened to me. It was a last resort. I wasn't going to get near that. I never used it, and I really don't use it recreationally. So, I was in my 40s when I finally did, try this as a last resort after I was already, very, very ill from being on the opiates for that many years.
Mm-hmm.
So many people in that same situation get so sick and ill, but won't touch it because of that stigma, and that the old gateway drug theory too. I mean,
Right.
we've disproven that. So it's time to get over it, people. Let's move on. We are educated now, and let us continue to educate.
Definitely. I think that, I can see a lot of positives behind it. I know people personally that can benefit, as a veteran myself, and we'll go into that a little later, but there's areas I could see it being beneficial in my own life and my own medical situation, and have already started having those conversations with some of my doctors. But again, I'm also I think oftentimes we get caught up with what has been taught as dogmatic tradition, I call it, especially within the realm of like the church or our small conservative communities, or in the communities that don't have a lot of experience except for what they're fed on the news or fed through social media and that type of thing. But I know we've already kind of hinted at some of the positives, but what are some more positives, behind it? A little more specifically, how, from an economic standpoint, how can a community like Olean benefit from really getting on board, as opposed to taking this hardline, uneducated, fear-mongering approach of, no, we don't want it here. In my mind, it drops crime. It allows us to focus on other areas that are more important as far as our law enforcement is concerned, instead of me, hemming people up just because they, a little bit of weed. I can focus on more important things from that aspect, filter money in a different way. From a financial standpoint, we talked about the various jobs, but if you could talk about some of that as well and help us understand that, it would be beneficial, I think.
Yeah. That's your neighborhood, so I'll let you take a lot of that, Ty. But 40% of this revenue, if you were to allow this in your community, is going to go right back into community reinvestment, which is something we have to hold the state to, so that we can see how that's going to look and really help the community. And you already touched on that underage, under 21, they're going to be ID'd now.
Mm.
So that's a great protection. You opt out, you're losing that. You're actually forcing people, into an area we don't want to have, and then consumer safety with regulation. But, Ty, that's your neighborhood. How is that directly going to affect, positively? Only in.
So, as you know, Gary, Olean has been on a steady decline, population and jobs.
Yep.
Like I said, we're about to lose 500 jobs here next year. We could easily replace them. There's growing facilities we can have there, and then it goes on to production where you can break it down into concentrates. There's and we don't there's enough businesses inside the marijuana industry that if we wouldn't even have to have a distributor
Dispensary?
a dispensary if we didn't want to. You could still make those jobs up and bring enough revenue in for the county. But you're going to want that, Otherwise, you think about where we're at, and everybody's going to be running through Olean to go to Buffalo or Erie County and taking that revenue. So we'll have millions of dollars running through here just to go pass through and drop off in Erie County. That's the last thing that we want. If last night when we were at the city council meeting, they were saying that the surrounding areas look at us as the big city.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we're their big city, that's where they need to come. That's where they need to focus on. And like I said, we're trying to rebrand Olean. I'm not saying that we need to rebrand it into a cannabis town or anything like that, but if that can turn our revenue around and turn around our county, then I think that needs to be part of the equation. I think that we need to be talking about that. And like she said, when you opt out, you're opting out of all those regulations. Mm-hmm. And then that's when you become what they say now. We have a wild, wild west going on. Anybody can do anything. Exactly. If you don't opt in, that's what you're going to have.
And I've noticed in various places that I'm familiar with, when the dispensary essentially is there, the thought crime's going to go up, there's going to be all this, because there's this negative stigma that has been perpetrated about individuals. And I've had this conversation with some people before. A lot of times when you hear people stand up and speak just in your neighborhood or in your circle of friends in favor of the legalization of marijuana, it's generally an individual that tends to fit the stereotype or the negative stereotype. And so a lot of people are like, well, if that's who's supporting it, I don't want to have anything to do with it. But the fact of the matter is, you have college professors that's how they deal with stress and anxiety and that type of thing, and other professions, various professions. And we create this, again, we operate under the mindset of this dogmatic tradition that comes through, whether it's, a conservative family or just uneducated or poor information or, even our faith backgrounds and these types of things. And so we approach it based on word of mouth and what we see on Facebook as opposed to what's actually happening. But from my understanding and what I've seen personally, crime rates actually decrease because, people aren't getting hemmed up for small, pointless things, first of all. And then, secondly, they don't have to go that, as we said, that legacy route in order to obtain it. And it's safer, because of the regulations behind it. And I think that, like you both are saying, there's a lot to that. And in this community, it's a huge opportunity. It's a huge opportunity for a creation of jobs. And not just that, but like Ty had said earlier, looking at those restaurants that have the infusion or the different stores and things that take place, and the dispensary itself and growing and all these different avenues that can benefit this community. And I don't think by opting in we create a weed mecca, so to speak, or a focal point for the city. I think we capitalize on the fact that we're moving in the future, and we can either move to the future progressively, like Olean claims it has been doing for the last 8 years, as it has a negative decline over the last 8 years. But somehow we keep saying that we're moving in this great direction, and yet due to bad politics and terrible foresight and agendas, we're about to lose 500 jobs. And we're, as a city, reacting as opposed to being proactive like we should be. And we have an opportunity here to be proactive And yet we have to combat that bad mindset or that traditional way of thinking that's been ingrained in us. And usually it's individuals, in my opinion, that don't have any experience with it at all, that have never seen or experienced people that use it for medicinal purposes or even recreationally. They still think it's this massive gateway drug, or they're going to go hop in the car and take off. And most experience that I've had coming up in my life, that's like Ty said, that's not the case. People aren't using and they're going, hey, let's go to the store. That's usually not the thought in my experience. But I think there are definitely some positives there that we need to capitalize on. And like you said, Ty, you're right. If we opt out, then we watch the money go. And here we are talking about let's make Olean better. Well, if you continue to hang on to the past and you won't let go of anything from the past, you can't grab your future. Your hands are full. And we'll watch that money filter everywhere else and be in the same situation that we're in. And we'll watch these other communities become the city as we become that small town that nobody wants to be at.
Correct. Because there's multiple municipalities that's going to be opting out of it around us. And we don't want to be that guy. We want to be the one that says yes, so that all them people come here instead of taking that money to Erie County or Jamestown. Jamestown is going to try to they're going to try to be the biggest people in New York State. So like, that's our next door. That's like, we can't have that.
For lack of better words, it's competition.
Correct.
For lack of better words. I mean, when you're looking at growing a city, where are the benefits? Where is it? Do I have essentially everything that me and my family need or not? And if I can go somewhere where I have jobs and a growing community, a thriving community, a diverse community, and not just diverse as far as population is concerned, but diverse in the type of jobs. I think that opting into this allows another avenue of industry, allows another avenue within the job creation realm, as opposed to traditional factory type work that we've seen and seem to be the only type of work as a city we pursue. I think that's been one of our one of the downsides and one of the detriments is that we tend to, as a city here in Olean, pursue that traditional mindset and factory work, and as opposed to what's growing and what's the future. You've got to look at something that's going to sustain 5, 10, 20, 25, 30 years down the road, as opposed to, let's just, figure out the now. And that's what put us in the situation with Siemens. We just thought about the now instead of using some foresight. Like I was saying earlier, for minorities, for veterans, I'm curious, are there avenues or ways to get involved, or programs designed specifically for those communities to get involved in this process? Because I think a lot of times what happens when something like this tends to come to the forefront, disenfranchised groups of individuals, minorities, they still end up on the back burner, even though it's the, oh yeah, you'll have this opportunity, but really the opportunity, the requirements to reach the carrot just aren't there.
Yeah, we wrote, the state wrote in specifically into the MRTA, the Marijuana Regulation Taxation Act that passed, that social equity applicants would have those opportunities in a certain percent. I was trying to look it up for us, but let's say, here we go. Establishes a goal of 50% of cannabis business licenses will be for social equity applicants in New York State. And we have so many different categories for these licenses as well. Okay. So there's everything from nursery to the growing, to the cultivation. Then we have micro, small business license. So you don't have to have the $2 million, dollars to go in there and have this huge dispensary or grow facility or, and such. So it's definitely for even delivery. You can get licenses for delivery, consumption lounges, definitely geared for people who don't have that large amounts of capital, since we can't go and borrow from a bank right now because of the federal laws. Mm-hmm. So that, is specifically written in there to help try to come out of that gray and legacy area into the market where you can be on the other side. And I'd love to back up real quick and explain to your neighbors in Olean, what they are opting in and opting out of. Do they realize that the only thing that a town or a city can opt out of is a consumption lounge or a dispensary? You cannot stop people from, consuming cannabis. You can't stop all the ancillary businesses. You can't stop them from growing. You cannot take that right away. And we have that law now for New York State. We're not allowed to just yet, but we can have up to 6 plants, 3 immature and 3 mature plants per adult in a home, maximum 12. But that you cannot stop that from happening. So what you are opting out of is that protection and that revenue. 20% of the revenue goes to drug treatment, prevention, and education. And we're talking, no, marijuana isn't the addictive drug. It isn't where people have an issue. It's not a gateway drug. We've seen so many people come off of hard drugs using cannabis.
Right.
We've seen so many people stop, using alcohol who were alcoholics and had issues. And of course, the opiate problem. But those hard drugs that are out there, we've got 20% of this money is going to be invested and put back into drug treatment for the people. Those aren't criminals. We really need to decriminalize drugs in a sense that that's an illness. That's something we have a health issue with. That's, a policy that we need to work on too. That you are not a criminal just because you have a substance abuse problem. Where's our compassion?
No, definitely. And I definitely think that a lot of times when individuals go that route, and I've done work with the organization Teen Challenge. When I was in Florida, I was loosely involved with them, and just speaking to the men and women that went through that program, just talking to them. A lot of times we don't treat people or teach people how to deal with the root cause. And because they can't deal with the root cause, that's when they branch out to all these other avenues to kind of alleviate whatever that may be, or whatever that issue may be. And if we can filter this money into some solid treatment instead of continuing to put band-aids on people, I mean, this is why people end up, going back into situations and relapsing, because they get back to that place that they can't handle that root cause that was never dealt with, and it starts the process all over again. And then we look at them and demonize them and criminalize them, and it's just an individual that needs help dealing with a situation. And like you said, we're just opting in and out of whether or not that dispensary is there, whether or not, I mean, the money's going to go somewhere, and it might as well come here. Honestly, and if you can filter it back into the community, the positives that can come of that, I think are extremely important. Where can people look to see those categories you were talking about in references to the licenses, the various business licenses and micro licenses, that type of thing?
So there's a website that is up, and it is the Office of Cannabis Management for New York State. And I'm sorry, I don't have it memorized, but it's
fair enough.
We can drop that link later or such. If you go on there, the MRTA is listed, and you can read it for yourself, the actual legislation, and you can see, you're going to have to do some digging and reading, or, message us and we can get you a simplified version so you can see that. But we don't have the specifics yet. And those licenses are not available, for, I can't tell you how much they're going to cost. Can't tell you how to apply yet. That's what we're waiting for with this establishment of this Office of Cannabis Management to be set up, and its advisory board. And that's kind of what the mess we're in right now in New York.
Right. Okay. So with, I know, Ty and I had talked and some different things that we've discussed kind of in the background, but what are some other things that we still need to worry about or think about as far as the legislation is concerned?
Well, right off the bat, that Office of Cannabis Management, we need individuals seated at that table who represent our communities, not just a bunch of, I'm sorry to say it, but white males, politicians or such that have never had hands-on, don't have education in the industry, don't know about the plant as well. Yes, you need, of course, administrative duties are, and how things work and regulations, policies. But we need to make sure that we get people in there who can represent, because these are going to be the people. Okay, so we have a law that says you can grow a plant, but we don't know where you can grow it. Does it have to be locked behind a fence? Can it be visible from the road? Can it be outdoors, or does it have to be inside? Is there all these regulations that we could have this so tightly woven with regulations? If somebody got in there and tried to kind of sabotage this, they could come up with, you have to have inspections in your house. You have to have our electrician come in. You have to pay a fee for a license. They could be forcing people right back into a situation of doing things illegally, which may or may not have criminal repercussions again. And we could be targeting the same neighborhoods in the Black and brown community that we're trying to help. Because this, again, this whole legislation in New York State, this is not about your access. This is about criminal reform and stopping the racism that we have. It's blatant, it's there, and you cannot deny it. We have the numbers to show it. So, people are being targeted, and that's what this is about. This is about criminal justice reform.
In your time being involved, have you seen that? You mentioned kind of sabotaging it in so many details, and have you kind of seen that type of mindset from some individuals during your time of being involved?
Yes. So, I mean, that's what we saw even happen with the medical program in the state.
Okay.
Like, oh yeah, we have it, but we're going to make it so difficult to use and so ugly, that you're really not wanting to use it. So, I mean, having a medical cannabis program, medical marijuana, and not having the flower available. I mean, you need to meet people where they're at. This plant has been around. All these people have been self-medicating, right? All right, somebody like me, I was in my 40s, I had not. Most people, will say are veterans. They are very well known for treating their PTSD and chronic pain by smoking, right? That's what they know. That's what's easy. That's what's simple, and it works. So New York State creates a program. Here's medical cannabis, but you can't smoke it. You need to meet people where they're at. Have I learned that there are better ways to medicate? Yes. Okay, great. Once they get in the program, then we can present to them, hey, have you ever heard of a tabletop vaporizer? It might be better on your lungs for you. Hey, have you ever gotten to try a tincture with different ratios? We can help you find other ways that may be more beneficial during the day. So we need to meet our community and our individuals where they're at, instead of just forcing something down their throats so that you can look good in politics.
Right. And I think that's a lot of kind of what I've seen. You either have people that are 100% like no, because it's the big green bad guy, it's you smoke it, you're going to do all these terrible things. And then you have the other side that's like yeah, okay, let's go ahead and see it, but they got to jump through all these hoops, and almost causing more problems than what were there. And like you said, it's not about access. People are going to go get what they want. It doesn't matter if it's with marijuana. It doesn't matter if it's alcohol. It doesn't matter if it, ultimately, if I see something that I want in somebody's house, there's plenty of people that have made the decision that that's more important to me. So I'm going to go ahead and break in the house and take it. It ultimately isn't about the access. If I want it, I can find a way to go get it. But can I regulate it? Can I make it safe? Can I create an atmosphere where it's positive and where people are actually productive within what is taking place? I think that's a big thing. And again, I think it falls back on education. I think a lot of people, like you said, a lot of people that are even sitting at the table talking about the legislation don't have a clue. They're relying on what they saw, in 1983, or, just say no to drugs, that lovely campaign. And, working off of information that's not even valid. And not even taking the time to talk to people that have the experience. And like you said, various ways. It's not just about, hey, I'm going to go smoke. And I think a lot of people are missing that. I think there's more to it than that.
I could tell you when I got in my car accident and broke my neck, they wanted me to take all these opioids, and I refused because I see what it does to everybody. And I was taking like ibuprofen 800s, And my doctor said, Ty, you can't keep doing this. Like after I took them for about 2-3 years, and she was like, you just can't keep doing this. It's going to mess your body up. Like you need to think about either going to them pills or doing something different. And I said, well, what about the marijuana program? Would you put me into that? And she didn't even hesitate. She signed the paper. She said that she thought I would never ask.
Wow.
So she signed the paper for me. I went up to Dent, and the rest is history. But I will tell you, like she was saying, sometimes, at least for me, mine's a lot about nerve damage and swelling and stuff. So for me, what works is a tincture and smoke.
Mhm.
So like, if I would have never had that tincture, my life would be totally different. Me getting out here and walking the neighborhood with you, that would never happen. Couldn't do it.
Right.
But because of the tincture, I can do it. So it's very important, like she said, to be able to meet the people where they need to be met.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, there's a lot of medical conditions that there's no cure for, like CTE, for example, and to simplify CTE, the concussion disease, a lot of athletes, have experienced, and veterans have experienced. There's no real cure. And so it's, let's kind of treat symptoms and work with them the best that we can. And, or people that, are in an amount of pain. I mean, we joke, you mentioned Motrin. When I was in the Army, we called it vitamin M. They gave it to you for everything. You got a migraine, take some Motrin, drink water, suck it up, drive on. You got a chest wound, take some Motrin, drink water, suck it up, drive on. You broke your leg and the bone sticking out the side of your thigh, take Motrin, drink water, suck it up, drive on. And, I was just talking to somebody earlier, like, in order for Motrin to actually have an effect on like some of the migraines that I struggle with, if I'm talking Motrin or some of the other issues, physical issues that I have as far as pains related, you're talking 32 to 4,000 milligrams of Motrin before it touches anything, and I might as well take my liver and throw it out the window.
Correct.
Type of thing. Or individuals that have experienced COVID and contracted COVID have been told not to take Motrin because it could affect their kidneys. It could affect, all these different things. And so we have another avenue, but because people are running off of second and third and fourth hand information, we're missing an opportunity to just help people. I mean, aside from the economic standpoint, just to help people from a health standpoint. And then you throw the economic caveat on top of it, and, it takes it to another level. Now when we're able to start growing, when all that's figured out and you're able to start growing, how long do you think until we start seeing the stores pop up?
From my understanding, right, the stores won't be until like 2022 or 2020, the end of 2022, the stores, closer to 2023. My understanding is we'll be able to grow probably at least people with medical cards will be able to grow in probably like September, October-ish area. But again, that all depends. Like everything we're talking about depends on the cannabis management, right. They have to get together, they have to form, they'll put more regulation in around everything.
Well, I certainly hope that they don't wait as long as our city waited to put a police reform committee together. I definitely hope that, they're a little more proactive as far as that's concerned. That's definitely, I mean, it's exciting. It is for, like I've grown up in the church, I work in the ministry. And so there is a stigma attached to marijuana, alcohol. And a lot of times these stigmas are really just dogmatic tradition that's just been taught from one person to the next. It's not even based off real information or as far as scripture is concerned from my faith perspective. So I keep going back to getting educated, getting involved, ask the questions. If you've got a question about it, ask the question. Where can we go to get educated, like on our own? Just hey, I'm at the house, I want some information, I've got these questions. Who do I reach out to that will listen and help?
that website is all you got right now.
Okay.
Unless you want, like she said, you can reach out to us. There like NORML is out. They have people that they have things all the time. I share them. They have attorneys that come out and talk, people that are in the industry that talk, very informative. We'll be trying to get more of them to come on and have, educate. We are going to try to educate the community as much as possible. That is the number one goal. I want to make sure that our community knows, and there is no, like we said last night, be well informed on what you're voting on. Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure that the council is well informed. We don't want them going on something that they heard, some rumors or anything. We want them to know facts. We want the community to know facts. We want everybody to be comfortable.
Yeah, it's time to open the conversation and stop being so afraid to talk about it, and right. Even, it's still awkward for me. I still have to not tell a lot of my doctors, or fear how they're going to look, the look, when you tell, oh, you're one of those patients, it's just not right. But yeah, getting a hold of us, ESNORML, ESNormal.org is the New York State, the Empire State website. And there's lots of research on there and blogs, and they're constantly putting out, new content. And then we share that around, and we're all over Facebook. And then there's little, smaller chapters of us that are putting out education and news. But really, you will not find anything from the state. Even they actually wrote that in their legislation in the beginning, that it would be like promoting it if they were to educate much. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be one of the biggest pluses too with this legislation, with the new legalization. We can talk about this. Let's start getting some money into education, and that is planned. But, they don't even know what they're doing yet. So it's really hard. It's hard for us to get that information out. Everybody's on Facebook, really. We have groups, there's smaller groups, and I can't wait to work with Ty. So
you said esnormal.org?
Yes, I think that's all it is.
One thing I will say is Assemblywoman Stokes and Mrs. May, there's people that are involved that are really, really trying to make sure that things go right. They don't want to just throw it together. I know people will get upset about that, but New York is trying to do it right. They're trying to get it to be the best, some of the best legislation in the country. We're trying to get it right,
And I think that's important. I think it's important that people realize that, like we mentioned last night at the council meeting, it's real easy to be excited and have courage about something that may or may not take place. It's much different to get in there and put your hands to the plow and start really working on things. And if we want it done right, and if we want to make sure that all these positives we talk about take place, it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not, let's just roll the dice and throw the lots and see where they lay. It's going to take much more than that. Now I am going to put both of you on the spot. So I apologize, but not really. So with that being said, talking about educating and getting involved and getting the conversation started with the community, would either of you be open to doing more? Because this is obviously a one-sided conversation with just the three of us, more that podcast type environment. But would you be open to more of a question answer, interactive type of approach to discuss and open the conversation up for the community?
Most definitely.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, that is definitely something that I would like to move towards, in the future. Definitely. I think that, and as often as we can, and with as many various, individuals or subject matter experts, I think it is important. I think it's important to educate and to make sure that we understand the process. So even when we start reaching out to our legislators, we know what we're talking about, and we're not just saying, hey, make it legal, let us do this. There's more to it behind that. With that being said, Ty, do you have anything else for us before we kind of wrap it up? And
I would say do contact your legislators. Let them know what you're interested in. Let them know that they need to have, real people from our communities that are on that board, not just some bureaucrats It's not going to work if that's what they do. We need people that are straight from the community. One of the biggest things that I'm worried about is you hear out here in Western New York, you know, you hear all the time that we get the bad end of the stick because we don't have people that really fight for us. In New York
Right.
City are a bunch of bullies and they take everything that we're supposed to get. Well, we don't want that happening with this. So the best thing to do is to call your legislators, your assemblymen, your senators, and you let them know, like, we want people from Western New York communities on them boards.
Mm. Definitely. Miss Hamilton?
Yeah, your voice does matter. Don't think that it doesn't. And keep calling, keep writing. We've got letters on that are pre-written. Add your address in and it pulls up who your assembly person and senator is for your district. You know, get to know these things. I'll help you through it. You know, give me a call, message me. I mean, I'm an educator, so that's what I do. And to empower others. That's my goal. Let's empower each other to move forward.
Fantastic. Well, I since I know we could keep talking and, you know, probably just for hours, honestly. But I definitely appreciate both of y'all's time. I hope you be open to coming back and doing this again, like we said, and even, you know, and more of an interactive type of environment as well. But I definitely appreciate you both for joining us. Thank you so much. And, you know, again, I want to encourage individuals out there to get involved, whether you're, you know, I know Olean isn't the only place that listens to or watches the podcast, but, you know, get involved for your community, get involved for your state, get involved, you know, with what's going on. And for those of us in Olean, you know, if we really want to move towards more of a progressive and positive and growth type of thought process and avenue and atmosphere, and really bring and generate some diversity to the city instead of the last 8 years of negativity, then, you know, this is definitely something that we need to pursue. And you need to make sure that, you know, we are educated so we can continue to educate our leadership. And if they're not going to lead, if they're just going to hop in the car, then we need to go ahead and get behind the wheel and help them out. And so that's where I'm at with it. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Those of you that are watching, thank you very much. And we will catch you next time on Reflections. Y'all pray for me. I'll pray for you. Y'all have a good night.